signal transduction or cell signaling, and some mechanism of hearing, mechanism of vision, as well as some circadian rhythm like physiological phenomena. So today we will discuss some brief about the cell signaling. What is the cell signaling and what is the signal processing? Means how the signal get transmitted from one cell to other cell. So basically, signaling is the communication of information. Suppose as we can communicate the exam result through the different methods. Okay, so basically in this we will learn the cell communication. What is how the cell communicate or how our body communicate with the some information. Okay, so generally in biological process, what are the sources of signals? So basically, the signals may be derived from either environmental source, means we can receive the signal from the some outer source, our surroundings, or from the other cells. Means suppose there are some other signals. Suppose in case of infection, if one cell get infected of one cell of our body get infected, this cell communicate with the other cell. Okay, so because the other cell, like the cells of immune system, help to infected cell to eliminate from the infection. In the same way, environmental, there are number of signals from the environment which are received by the our body cell. So basically, if we try to divide the communication between the cells, so these may be categorized as follows. The first group having this communication within the individual. So now this communication within the individual means the inside the body. So now these are further may be categorized as short range signal, means from the one cell to nearby cell or neighboring cell, and other is the long range signal, means the signal released by one cell is received by the cell distantly situated in the other part of the body. In this case, the chemical messenger or signal messenger travel through the blood or body fluid and affect the other organ, like our endocrine system. Okay, so there are a number of hormones which are released by a particular cell, and it may have the distantly situated target cell. Now the other type of signal may be the between the individual, when the two individual communicate with each other. Okay, so as you are aware, there are the hormones, pheromones, and this is the very important signal molecule between the animals. Okay, so as you must have seen, the ants are moving in the in a row. So this they follow a same path. Okay, so due to this pheromones, they can track the path of the ant. With the release of pheromones, the bees and number of insects also release these pheromones, and they invite the other member of group towards the honey or toward the nectar. In the same way, there are number of perfumes are available in which the slight amount of chemically synthesized pheromones are available or present. Okay, now there is one type of communication is the known as paracrine communication. There are number of communication like autocrine communication, paracrine communication, juxtacrine communication. Okay. So first of all, this paracrine communication. So basically, in this paracrine communication, here you can see the signal molecules, these are the signal molecules, are released by the cell and they are received by some other cells. Okay, so this is the, and these are the paracrine communication. Autocrine communication, as name suggests, auto means it is a self-inducing signaling or communication pathway. The cell releases the chemical messenger and that chemical messenger is again received by the same cells. So generally our body having the number of cells, basically the cells of immune system, suppose in case of B cell, T cell, they release the different types of interleukin and that interleukin act over the same cell and then the cell get differentiated. So such type of communication is known as autocrine communication. So in autocrine communication, same cells are affected. Then there is a juxtacrine communication. In this communication, the specific signal molecules are present and they affect the cell, either the self or the some neighboring cell. But in juxtacrine communication, this is a membrane bound signal molecules are present and this is the, we can say, ligand receptor mediated communication. So it is also known as contact dependent communication. Means in this case there is no signal molecules are released by the cell. Okay, so there is one gap junction. Other is there is a one gap junction. We can say this is a passage. So by this gap junction, cell can communicate with each other and this cell can exchange the signaling molecule through this gap junction. So gap junction is also a process of signaling. Next is the synaptic communication, or it is also known as neurocrine communication. Neurocrine because our neural cells having same type of communication method. In synaptic communication, there is some chemical messenger released by the neurons and other neurons having the receptor for the chemical messenger. So basically this is a signal transduction through the neuron. Here you can see our neuron is a network like a structure and they have the receptor end. Okay, so this dendrite like structure is the receptor end. Then other type of communication is the endocrine communication. So basically this endocrine communication is a type of hormone communication of hormone. As we know, there are cells which release the signal molecules like hormones, and these hormones travel through the blood and may affect the target cell, and this target cell may be distantly situated. And basically, and these hormones or chemical messengers molecules are carried through the blood stream or blood through the blood, and then they affect the target cell. So this is the endocrine communication. Our endocrine system or hormone system is a best example of this type. Okay, so this endocrine signaling and synaptic signaling, when we have the neurons, okay, neuron communications fall within the long range signaling. Okay, so these terms are important for your MCQ. What is the long range of signaling, and which is the type of a long range of signaling? Okay, now what is the, in this diagram there is a simple intracellular signaling pathway is indicated. So for the any type of signaling, there is a requirement of one signal molecule, okay, and one receptor molecules. So basically, these receptor molecules are present over the cell membrane. So here you can say this is the cell membrane. So on the surface of cell membrane, the receptors are present. So there are number of receptors present over the cell molecules. So basically, the different types of signal molecules having the different types of receptors. So our body having the number of specialized receptor for the different types of signal molecules. So when this signal molecules is released by some cell, or it may be from the environment, then the receptor of our cell receive the signal, or we can say there is a binding between the receptor molecule and signal molecule. So after this binding, there is a cascade or series of chemical or physiological change which is ultimately result into the particular type of response. So here you can say after the binding of the signal molecules, there is a some inside. This is the cytoplasmic side or inside the cell. So the transmission of signal by the receptor into the cell. Now this receptor molecule transmit the signal inside the cell. Now inside the cell there are signaling cascade passing on of the message to a series of signaling components. Now there are number of series of intracellular proteins. Basically these components are the different types of proteins. So now the one protein pass the signal to the other protein to the next protein. So number of protein molecules are involved in the signaling, and then finally arrival of the message at the destination. So now finally the signal arrive at the destination, and they show the different types of response. So basically this signal molecule ultimately affect the our metabolic enzymes. It may regulate the gene proteins, or it may regulate the cytoskeleton proteins. So these are the different types of few examples which ultimately show the different types of response. So this is the general process of signal transduction pathway, okay, or signaling pathway. This diagram is very important for you. Suppose in exam it is asked draw a diagram or simple intracellular signaling pathway, then you have to draw this diagram. This is the almost same signal communication diagram, signal diagram. This is signal molecule bind with the receptor, then this signal get transmitted and they activate the proteins. So this activation may be due to the number of way. So it may be due to phosphorylation, the attachment of phosphorus molecule to the protein molecules to activate the. So this signal relay is the passing of signal through the number of channels. Now there are number of during this signal relay or this signal communication, there are number of molecules which also participate in the signal amplification, or they amplify the signal. So there is one very important pathway for the cell communication or cell signaling is the G protein mediated cell signaling. Okay, so in G protein there are number of molecules like protein kinase molecules which are participate CMP molecules, which are the molecule which participate in the amplification of the signal molecules. Other way is the signal divergence. Signal can be also diverted as per their requirement or to affect the number of or different types of target cells. In the same way, the different signals may affect a common target cell. So this process phenomena is known as signal convergence. Here you can notice there are two different types of signals and they affect one target cell. Like the electronic signal or digital signal, there is also a process of signal modulation and demodulation inside our body. There is one mechanism in our signaling process is known as feedback mechanism. So in feedback mechanism, so when suppose there is a series or cascade of signaling process, so at the end process may give a feedback response to the initial step to switch on or switch off the process. So basically when we have a particular signal and there is a continuous response, so when the response arrived at the ample amount, then there is a feedback inhibition or the process may get stopped. So now this feedback inhibition may be a positive or negative, means it can activate the process or inhibit the process. In the same way, there is one phenomena known as crosstalk. Crosstalk is the interaction between, suppose these are the two signaling pathway and these two intermediate molecules interact with each other to activate or inhibit the process, then it is known as crosstalk. In feedback inhibition, the end product affect the initial product, end product affect the initial product, but in this case the different pathway the parallel pathway and the intermediate molecule affect each other. So this is the crosstalk. And these are the not important for you. These are the basically for the okay. So one example of cell signaling is, suppose in case of our body cells, there are a number of signals received by the cells during the, suppose in case of our aging cells or in case of immune system, and this the response may be number of ways. Means this signal may help in the survival of cell. This signal sometimes, if there is a requirement of new cells, this signal may instruct the cell to divide. Then there may be instruction of signaling for the differentiation. One cell get transformed into the other cell type of cell. Now the signal may also be for the death of the cell or for dying. Suppose in case, as you have learned about the apoptosis. Apoptosis is the programmed cell death in a cell, okay, or necrosis. Okay, so there is a requirement of apoptosis or necrosis. So all these are the signal dependent process. Now the signaling pathway may be slow or fast. Sometimes we have the very rapid response. Suppose we receive the light, intense light in our eye, so we respond the very fastly against the light. But there are some response, some allergic response, which may be against that response. We respond in minutes, hour, or even in days. So this is the brief about this signaling process inside our body. We will also discuss some detail of this signaling process.
Here?
I don't really have anything to compare.
So these are the few sections. Beside this, we have to also study the process of
You're an actual nerd, aren't you?
hearing.
I admire that. There's courage in being a nerd. Love the helmet. It's adorable.
Adorable in the helpless baby animal sort of way, I'm guessing.
Are you afraid of helmet hair?
My hair does the same thing no matter what, it just sits there.
Yeah, you just need some product. A little effort to style it, blow dry in the morning.
And sacrifice my masculinity.
That ship has sailed, don't we think?
Watching you stand alone.
I'm having so much fun, Clay.
Having fun. Totally. Woo!
You're too bummed up.
Around her, I can be different.
Helmet! What does that look like to you?
Like all that's good and sweet in the world.
Has your dad also been nervous?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, helmet.
Hey. I don't know, I guess being socially awkward has its advantages.
I don't think you're socially awkward at all. I think you're waiting.
Hello, can you
Sometimes it's
see
better to
the
wait.
screen?
Pardon me?
Yes, sir.
You really have.
Okay, so there is one important phenomena in communication is the how what is the mechanism
Do you
of
think I could ever
hearing.
be as pretty as
Okay,
Jessica
so
Davis?
here I have one small video, and this video
I mean, yeah,
was
it's
released by the
pretty normal.
NIS, which is National Institute of Health.
Special.
Okay, so see this video.
Hey, helmet.
Hey. You're smiling.
Then we will also discuss the
It's a
mechanism
gift.
of hearing, then mechanism of vision.
You want to show me the move?
Have you ever wondered how sounds make their way from the source all the way to your brain? Take a trumpet, for instance. When it's played, it makes sound waves. The outer ear catches the waves, which then travel through a narrow passageway called the ear canal. The sound waves reach the eardrum, which is a membrane roughly half the size of a dime. They make the eardrum vibrate, which in turn vibrates 3 tiny bones called the malleus, incus, and stapes. These bones amplify or increase the sound vibrations and send them to the cochlea. The cochlea is shaped like a snail and is the size of a garden pea. It is filled with fluid, and the sound vibrations make this fluid ripple, which creates waves. Hair-like structures called stereocilia sit on top of hair cells and are grouped together as hair cell bundles inside the cochlea. The hair cells inside the cochlea ride these waves, and the hair bundles are moved. The hair bundle on top of the hair cell turns these movements into electrical signals. As the hair bundles are moved, ions rush into the top of the hair cells, causing the release of chemicals at the bottom of the hair cells. The chemicals bind to the auditory nerve cells and create an electrical signal, which travels along the auditory nerve to the brain. Different hair cells respond to different frequencies of sound. The hair cells at the base of the cochlea detect higher-pitched sounds, such as a piccolo or flute. The hair cells toward the top of the spiral detect progressively lower-pitched sounds, such as a trumpet or trombone. At the very top or apex of the spiral, the hair cells detect the lowest pitched sounds, such as a tuba. The auditory nerve carries the electrical signal to the brain, which interprets the messages as sounds that we recognize and understand.
Okay, so this is a most simplest video to explain the mechanism of hearing, means how we receive this or interpret the or differentiate between the different sound. So basically, as we know, ear is the specialized organ for the hearing. Now, when we receive any signal in our ear, so there is a one part eardrum inside, or we can say it is a membrane-like structure inside the ear canal. So when we receive this signal, so this it is get vibrated. Now this eardrum is attached with the bones, small bones, and these are the known as the smallest bone of our body. So these bones are basically malleus, incus, and steps. These are the 3 important bones. These are the malleus bone, incus bone, and steps bone. So please remember the name of this bone. Okay, so this is the very important for you. So these 3 bones are arranged, and these and the malleus bone is attached with the eardrum, and due to the vibration, the malleus bone transfer this vibrate, and it transfer it to the incus bone and then to the steps bone. Now this is finally steps bone is attached with a snail-like structure. This is the snail-like structure. So this snail-like structure is known as cochlea. Okay, so this cochlea. Now inside this cochlea, the liquid is filled. It is a liquid filled. So now this vibration transferred through this liquid, or now they create the ripples, a particular waves in this liquid. Now inside this liquid there is specialized hair-like projections are present. So these hair-like projection also get vibrate in response to this sound signal. Now, due to movement of this hair-like structure, this is also known as stereocilia. So they generate the ions, and these ions basically now the mechanical signal is converted into the electrical signal. Now this ion move from one part, upper part of cilia, to the lower part, and it is connected to this different types of nerves and neurons. So now these neurons having the receptors, so these ions are received, and so that it is known as neurotransmitters. So these signals are received by the auditory nerves. So this name of this nerve is the auditory nerves. So now this auditory nerve passes this signal to the other part or to the brain, where these signals are interpreted. Now inside this this snail-like structure cochlea, there is a different layers of this stereocilia or hair-like projection, and these different groups of cilia can recognize or can identify or differentiate between the different pitches of sound. So this is the basic mechanism of hearing. So this is the most simplest mechanism of hearing. Okay. Okay, so we will discuss more about the signal communication, mechanism of hearing, and mechanism of vision in few next classes. Now just wait for the few minutes. I am downloading the attendance. अरे आइए बैठिए कब पहुंचे?
कल शाम में, कल रात में 9 बजे आया पहुंचे सर। आप बिजी हैं सर, हम निकलते हैं सर।
Okay, so it is downloaded. Thank you. Thank you very much for presence listening. Now you can leave the meeting. Thank you.